What's going on, you guys? RBG here, bringing you more news and updates on the game project that originally went by the working title Transformers Online. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to let you guys know that I'll be reviewing games exclusively on Gimme. It's a platform where you can see which games I'm playing and get my impressions, as well as ask me questions about those said games. The most recent title I've reviewed is Mario Golf Super Rush. Just want to note that some of the things I critique may vary since the characters, weapons, and maps will be updated based on the game. If you're interested in seeing what I have to say, hop on over to Gimme now and give me a follow to stay up to date on what I review next. You can do so by clicking the link that will be provided in the description box below. For the past couple of years, there have been murmurings about this particular project regarding its premise and if it'll ever see the light of day. Hasbro and Certain Affinity have yet to say a single word about it or confirm that it's being worked on, so rightfully so, many fans who were once hyped about TF Online are now deeming the project dead. A few weeks ago, a highly trusted moderator on TFW 2005 mentioned that the game was indeed an actual thing, but the original team who started on it had since moved on to other projects, and that alluded to two possible scenarios. The game is close to completion and the staff have been scaled down since it doesn't require a lot of manpower, or Certain Affinity just couldn't get the project off the ground and ultimately canceled it to work on other things. And like a lot of you, I'm hoping it's the first scenario. Even though there have been a ton of TF games and cross promotions in the more recent years, none of them feel like the true Transformers video game experience we've had since Fall of Cybertron or Devastation were released all those years ago. It just feels like we haven't gotten that TF project that should be taken seriously like the other big name video games. Which is crazy because the Cybertron games came out under the guise of a company that's notorious for completely bastardizing licensed properties. And don't get me wrong, they somewhat did at the tail end of that particular run, but they were able to churn out at least two terrific games before doing so, and we're desperately waiting to get that same effort put into a new Transformers game. Now with that said, I do feel like there's a possibility that we might end up in that weird place we were in back when Activision merged the Cybertron universe with the Bayverse, because as I mentioned earlier, the upcoming project was originally called Transformers Online, but it now seems to have an official name, and that is Transformers Rise. The name change has almost certainly been ordered to link the game to the next Transformers movie that'll be released at the end of 2022. As you all know, the film is going to be titled Transformers Rise of the Beast and will feature the Beast Wars characters. They recently appeared in the final Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom series on Netflix, and Hasbro is obviously trying to get modern fans more acclimated with those particular characters, because if we gotta be honest, they've kind of faded into obscurity since the Bayformers films overshadowed them with the original lineup of characters. In a sense, Beast Wars is the middle child of the franchise, because on one end you have the G1 fans who hate it, and on the other end the Bay fans think it's lame. There's only the fans who were introduced to the TF franchise through that particular series who genuinely love it. So now that the G1 characters and movies have run their course, they want to freshen up the roster. And if you ask me, I don't think that'll help the films if they still are going to follow that same formula. But I digress. Now, besides this game bearing a similar name to the upcoming film and pretty much implying that it will be taking characters from it, it could also mean that this game won't be coming out this year. It'll more than likely be launched close to the date of Rise of the Beast, which launches in December of next year. Shortly after the new Snake Eyes film bombed at the box office, Paramount changed their initial plans of releasing Rise of the Beast from the summer of next year to the winter of 2022. And I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that when they saw those poor ticket sales, they probably were scared, and any confidence they had in this new TF movie was thrown out the window. And I guess I can understand that since they spent $100 million on Snake Eyes and only pulled in $37 million, which isn't even close to breaking even. And Rise of the Beast, which is utilizing characters that not too many fans show favor towards, is reportedly going to cost Paramount $200 million to make. And that's not even counting the money they're going to put into the promotions, which could range from $50 million to $100 million. So there's a chance that all that budget could be spent in vain, and the Transformers film franchise will continue to go under. If you guys remember, the executive producer Lorenzo de Bonaventura mentioned that although Bumblebee was well received by fans and critics alike, it didn't make as much money as the previous movies did because it didn't have the same money put into the promotions and marketing. And I originally said that he was full of it and chalked it up to the poor ticket sales being a result of the fans not having any more faith in the franchise due to the previous films. But looking back at it now, the ad campaign was nowhere near as big as the earlier films. I mean, they got a few sponsorship deals and commercials, but they were so small in comparison compared to the earlier installments, you forget that the movie was coming out unless you followed all the news closely. So this is going to be a do or die moment for Paramount. And since that December 2022 date isn't necessarily a definitive release slot and could ultimately be changed, it means that the upcoming game will have to be pushed back as well. Something else that you should be worried about is the fact that the game could potentially suffer from your usual movie tie-in tropes. That means the developer's creativity could be bogged down by Hasbro. What's not to say that Hasbro forces certain affinity to only use elements from the upcoming movie, or it could be even worse. They'd be tasked with using what they originally created before the movie was even a thing, but now that the movie is an actual thing, they'll have to take those pre-existing assets and merge them with what'll be in the movie. We've seen that happen to the Cybertron series when Hasbro and Paramount wanted a movie tie-in game for Transformers Age of Extinction. And to save time and money, Activision replaced the staff that worked on the Cybertron games, but used all their pre-existing assets to make a Frankenstein of a game called Transformers Rise of the Darkspark. And we know how that turned out. It's just a little ironic that this upcoming game features the name Rise in it and could possibly suffer the same fate as Rise of the Darkspark. Certain Affinity has yet to make any statements or confirm that this game is even coming out, and chances are they're sitting on their hands and forced to abide by an NDA made by Hasbro. Anyways, now that we got those possible outcomes on if the game will ever release out of the way, we now gotta look at the game being potentially axed. If you guys remember, there were reports going around that the original team involved with the game had since moved on to other projects, and many, including myself, thought it meant that the game was near completion and they didn't really need as much manpower as they started off with. But this info had some people speculating that it meant that TF Rise had been shelved, and it's looking like it might be the latter. According to popular Chinese game journalist Josh Yi, the game might never see the light of day due to poor management. Silver Optimist, who's been pretty much the beacon of light when it comes to this news on TF Online, posted this on TFW 2005. The article says, and I quote, "The final years of Lei Yu hunting for a buyout deal and ensuing chaos have left a bad taste in the mouth of many who joined Lei Yu to create games based on famous intellectual properties such as Lord of the Rings and Transformers. It has dashed the hopes of many who joined the company to create games," one person said. "It went from having one of the best hands in the gaming business to nothing but another satellite studio for Tencent. It was a place that a PC and console gamer dreamt of working at." So as you hear, it sounds like the Transformers gaming license is once again being mismanaged by Tencent, which really isn't any surprise, man. This is the same company that launched a TF game a couple years ago and it was cancelled before it even left the beta state. Ironically enough, it met the same fate as Transformers Universe, which was also canned before it left this beta phase. It's almost like these companies just hire these talented developers to do all this work to tease the fans just to cancel it in front of our faces. Till this day, fans are still asking when TF Universe will be released, and whenever I talk about the new game, people think I'm referring to the other Transformers Online game that was cancelled a couple years ago, and it looks like Tencent can cause that to happen once again. I'm not sure why they were so gung-ho about buying Lei Yu, but if I were to take a guess, it was probably to retain the rights to the TF gaming license. Transformers is a big thing in China, and Tencent is a company that's from that area, so they're probably desperate to keep that partnership going, even if it means buying the company who had currently owned the license at the time. Since they've acquired Lei Yu, multiple people have said that the overhaul at the company has now led to multiple canceled projects, which could incur in heavy lawsuits from breached contract deals that they had with previous partners. Former Lei Yu employees have even said that the company's ambition to assert itself in the gaming business was thwarted by mismanagement and internal infighting, and people who did not care about the games wound up being in charge. It was more interested in dressing itself up for a sale, and they did so by buying famous IPs with which they never intended to go through. So sadly, the Transformers gaming license may once again be held by yet another company that buys these talented studios and constantly interferes with their creatives. They don't really care about how good the product is, only that they can make the dollar from it. But anyways guys, that's all I have for you today. Late 2022 is when we'll most likely get the game if it hasn't been shelved already, and we probably won't see any promotions for it until the next summer at the latest. Until then, I'll keep you guys up to date as well as give my thoughts on what those updates could entail. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Tencent will end up canning the project? And do you think the new name is an indication that this game will be a movie tie-in to Transformers Rise of the Beast? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. Any feedback is good feedback and will only help me improve on future videos. But if you really enjoyed the video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on social media. Sharing really makes a difference. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.